continuing on from last week, can you remember we finished with this text? It says, "Your word is a lamp for my feet and a light on my path." And we talked about how God will go with us into a very uncertain new year. But you know, it's not just us that has to continue after Christmas. We heard about the shepherds. They went back to the hillside and they told everybody what they had heard and seen. But we're going to think about these three gentlemen, the wise men. When they came looking for Jesus following the star, first of all, they called at the palace. Well, you would if you're looking for a king, wouldn't you? And of course, there they met the King of Israel. Herod was his name. Now, unfortunately, King Herod wasn't a very nice man. And when he heard what the kings were looking for, he said, "Oh, when you find him, you must come back and tell me where so that I can go and worship him too." But you know, he didn't really mean it. And so, before the kings went home, they had to have a rest. And while they were having a rest, this happened. An angel from God, God's messenger, came to the three wise men while they were sleeping and in a dream said, "You mustn't go back to Herod on the way home because he wants to harm the baby Jesus. You must go home a different way, not past the palace." And so that's what the three kings did. And they went on their way. But they went on their way rejoicing and happy because they had seen the promised king. But what happened to Mary and Joseph? Well, you know, they too had a visit from the angel. It appeared unto them in a dream. And it said, "Be careful, because Herod wants to harm your baby, my son. You must get away from here so that Herod can't find you." So what will we do? Where can we go? And so God told Joseph and Mary to run a long, long way away. I'll give you a hint. Now what are these, do you think? What are these things? They also had things like this. Oh, it was somewhere in the desert, wasn't it? They were the pyramids where the kings of Egypt were buried. And that's where God told Mary and Joseph to go, to be safe. And while they were hurrying away, King Herod was giving orders that his men should look for all the baby boys in the kingdom under 2 and should put them to death. Oh, wasn't that a terrible thing to do? You see, he was frightened that if there was another king around, that he might lose his place. That's right, isn't it? Yes, not a very nice man. And so that's what they did. But unknown to him, God had prepared Mary and Joseph and sent them off in another direction where they were safe. And you know, Mary and Joseph had to stay there a while. In fact, they had to stay there until Herod died. Then God said, it's safe to come home now. You can come home. You see, it doesn't matter who we are or what we are. If we love God, then He always has us in mind. It says in the Bible, be strong and brave. Don't be afraid, for God will go with you. He will never forget you. And we find that in Deuteronomy in the Old Testament. Isn't that wonderful? God will go with you. He will not forget you. God has a plan for each of us. He had a plan for the wise men. He had a plan for Mary and Joseph. And He certainly had a plan for His Son Jesus. And He has a plan for us because we're His children if we love Him. And He wants to keep us safe. He's not saying that difficult things might not happen or things that we don't like. But He does promise to be always with us. He'll never forget us. We are always on His mind, and He keeps us in the palm of His hand.